Hi guys, welcome back or welcome to Georgie Ogden Astrology. In this video, we are going to be discussing Robin Williams' natal chart. We're going to be having a look at general personality, career, and also his illness. Can we see it in the chart? Yes, we can. This is going to be kind of a basic video, just going over those things. I find having a look at the celebrity charts very useful in terms of really seeing about how planets play out and how you can look at a chart and piece it all together. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please do not take anything that I say in this video as medical advice in any way. This is just astrological entertainment education. So let's get into it. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe so you don't miss any more future content from me. And if you get value from this video, please give it a thumbs up. I really appreciate it because it helps push the channel to more people. So Robin Williams, who was he? So obviously he is one of the most famous actors in the entire world, and he was most known for being this really lovable, cheeky, and hilarious actor that was so good at improvising in the most creative and crazy way. He was just fast thinking, on his feet, really funny, and that was what he was known for. He was known for his popularity. Everybody seemed to love him, but obviously he also had his struggles and he had his escapism issues as well. So we are going to look at that as well because we can definitely see everything in the chart. So first of all, we want to have a look at his rising sign. He is a Scorpio rising. Now, Scorpio energy is all about transformation. So it's the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. This is an energy that feels everything really deeply, but doesn't necessarily know how to express it. Scorpio energy is very powerful. Scorpios hold power, and in his case, he actually used this power to become famous and to express himself, and he was really, really good at it. Now, obviously, we don't know the very nitty gritty of his struggles, but um, you know, unfortunately, when you have a lot of water in your chart, this is a lot of emotion. And being Scorpio being a rising sign, this is typical of somebody that um, had lots of ups and downs, which he did. And then, unfortunately, because of the condition of his health, he then passed away. Now, with Scorpio being his rising sign, we want to have a look at Mars and Pluto because these rule Scorpio, and where they are in the chart is going to have a direct correlation to the direction of his life. So, modern ruler being Pluto is here in his 10th house of career. So this already shows a direct correlation between the direction of his life and his career. Pluto in the 10th house is where you hold power. Now he may have had many lifetimes of this being a wound where he would have had many lifetimes of being powerful. And sometimes where Pluto is, it can be like a psychological wound because actually in this lifetime you struggle to release your power. But in his sake, he very much used his power and he became famous from it. Now, he has got his Mercury here too, and Mercury is your mind. And this is why he was so funny and quick-witted because Leo is a very creative sign. It's creativity, it's passion. And he was known for how passionate and fast and crazy he was. And this is Leo energy. Leo energy is fun, it's center of attention, it's really expressing yourself in a fun and creative way. And with his Mercury being his mind and his communication and his thought processes, being in Leo, he was able to passionately express himself. He was center stage. He was in the limelight, and Pluto conjunct this is holding that power to transform that. Okay. Mercury in the 10th house gives you lots of good ideas towards your career. He obviously was very quick-witted, and Leo being a fire sign, it's fast. So fire is fast. So having your Mercury in Leo, you are fast thinking. So this is why he was so funny. He could think on his feet. He would make up his lines. He would be given his lines and he would just improvise and it would be hilarious and everyone loved it. And this is obviously in his 10th house of career and his reputation. This is happening on his MC line, and he was actually well known for his creative abilities with his how funny he was and the words that he used. He was well known for that, and your MC is your reputation. So this really does speak to what he was famous for. So it makes perfect sense that this is happening in Leo and this is happening on his 10th house. Now we will come back to the health side of this later. His other chart ruler is Mars, and Mars is over here in the 9th house. Now, the ninth house, a lot of it is to do with religion and beliefs. I think he was slightly religious. I don't know too much about the religion that he was involved in, but the ninth house is also travel and other cultures, and obviously having access to the world. And this would have been important to him, having freedom and access to the world, because these are ninth house topics. Now, Mars is your energy, and Mars conjunct Uranus is going to give you erratic energy. So he may have had lots of ups and downs with his energy. You know, he might have had crazy, doing crazy things here, doing crazy things there, which again, that's what he was known for, just being completely crazy. And Mars conjunct Uranus is a complete manifestation of this. So I think that is really interesting. He has his sun here too. The sun is where you shine. So freedom and um, higher thinking would have been important to him. And actually, I do feel like people really looked up to him. And the ninth house is like the teacher and the guru. And I really feel like, because the sun is where you shine, I feel like people really looked up to him. And he was very compassionate and very lovable. And this is the Cancer energy, because it's the energy of the home and the energy of feeling at home. And I do feel like he made people feel really comfortable with who he was, and that's very Cancerian. So I think that's a really beautiful manifestation of that energy as well. Now, he has got his moon in Pisces. Pisces moon is very, very sensitive. This is somebody that feels everything. This is somebody that puts other people's needs before their own. And this is somebody that can struggle with their emotions, and somebody that can lean towards escapism, um, because of what they feel, because of how they feel. Um, Now we know that he had, I think it was, he had drug and alcohol issues at some point in his life, which he did overcome. But this is pointing to that. And also Neptune in the 12th house can point to escapism issues as well. Neptune is opposing Jupiter in his day-to-day work and in his house of health. So there's a correlation here between his mental health and his physical health, and escapism being part of that, perhaps being made worse by Jupiter, being expanded by Jupiter. Um, because Jupiter's also receiving this square here from Mars and Uranus. So it's like, um, he struggled with his mental health. He wanted to escape. It would perhaps affected his work sometimes, which had a direct connection to his energy being up and down. And again, this is one of his chart rulers, so this was really important in his chart. Now, his life path. So his north and south node are, his south node is in Virgo and his north node is in Pisces in the fifth house. Now, on the one hand, let's just talk about his moon in the fifth house, by the way. Moon in the fifth, again, this is being center stage, expressing yourself, being creative, being in the limelight. He had an emotional need to be in the limelight and express himself creatively. It's Pisces energy mixed with Leo energy. It's exactly who he was. Like, that is exactly who he was. And he would have got emotional fulfillment from that. But with the moon on the north node and the south and Venus on the south node, so when you have planets connecting to the north and south node, the energy and the archetype of these planets kind of generally play out in your life path. So his life path, he was very popular, and the moon is the public, and Venus is popularity in love and friendship, and he was so popular. He was well known for being the most lovable person, and that is the explanation of moon and Venus on his life path. Moon on the north node. So the archetype of the moon when it comes to connecting to the nodes can also be seen as the archetype of the child. So on the one hand, this creates somebody that's very popular, but on the other hand, it creates somebody that doesn't know how to control themselves, is a little bit out of control. It's the child that eats all the biscuits because nobody's telling them to stop. And in his sense, because this is in Pisces as well, I think this is really him escaping through alcohol and escaping through drugs, and nobody telling him to stop, and him not having his own self-control, which is also a manifestation of Pisces energy because it's no boundaries. So unfortunately, yes, the moon on the north node is popularity, but it's also having that lack of control. It is also intuition and empathy. And again, this is what made him so lovable. So you have the good and the bad with the moon connected to the nodes. He would have had many lifetimes of being well liked and being popular because that's Venus on the south node, and he's brought that into this lifetime. So his life path does make complete sense. And the North Node in the fifth house is also about taking center stage. So he would have had many lifetimes of being involved in group work, but in this lifetime, it was his time to shine, and he very much did that. So I would say, even though he died young and it was sad, he was completing his soul purpose, and he has grown his soul in this lifetime when it comes to taking center stage, because that's what he did. Um, he also he was married like 3 times, I think. Um, and Venus rules his seventh house of relationships. Where's Venus? She's over here, but she's in Virgo, and she's in fall in Virgo, because Venus is exalted in Pisces, so she's in fall in Virgo, and she's opposing the moon. So he did have a few relationships. So he didn't just have one marriage and settle down forever. So there wasn't the stability with the relationships. Um, and we can see that the ruler of his seventh house of relationships is debilitated. So that does speak to why that was the case. And she's opposing his moon, which is how he feels. So perhaps there was pressure around his love and his relationships, and maybe because Virgo is a very critical energy, and this is why Venus doesn't do so well there, because Venus wants to be harmonious and loving, and Virgo is very critical. So perhaps he was quite critical in relationships, and perhaps he wanted things to be perfect and they weren't. And then there was this conflict between how he felt and who he and his love. And so that could have explained something to do with why his relationships broke down. He was, and he died, he seemed to be happily married with his wife. So maybe it took him a bit longer to get to that point. Now, when it comes to, so he also has Jupiter in the sixth house of day-to-day work. We know that he, again, going back to his career, powerful. Jupiter is the planet of abundance, and actually his work was, I believe, incredible, what he was known for. So that's how Jupiter is manifesting positively here. But then we want to think about the fact that the sixth house is also his health, and his health wasn't great. I think he had some heart problems earlier on, then he developed Parkinson's, and then he developed Lewy body dementia. Something, is that how it's called? A form of dementia from the Parkinson's. And because of this, he then experienced paranoia and depression, and that's why he killed himself. So he didn't kill himself because of his escapism issues. He killed himself because he was mentally unwell, and there was a bit of confusion around that in the media. Now we can see that he liked to escape with Moon in Pisces and Neptune in the 12th. But moving on to his actual health stuff, we want to look at the condition of his sixth house. So Aries on the sixth house is ruled by Mars. So we want to look at the condition of Mars to see, okay, how is his health? Now, Mars is up here in Cancer. Mars is debilitated in Cancer, okay, because it's opposite Capricorn. Mars works really well. It's exalted in Capricorn. So in Cancer, it doesn't do well. It hasn't got the tools that it needs to operate. Cancer's too dreamy and intuitive and wishy-washy and passive for Mars to get along. So when we're looking at Mars and the condition of it, we can already see that it's not in the best place. On top of that, it's conjunct Uranus. This is sudden changes to his health, sudden expected changes. You don't really want your ruler of your house of health to be conjunct Uranus, especially if it's already debilitated, because it's added pressure. We've then got the square to Neptune, okay, and the square to Jupiter. Now the square to Jupiter is actually helping it a bit because it's in Aries. So Mars rules here. So having this connection to Jupiter, it's actually like saying, I see you, Jupiter. I am trying to help you, but I'm over here in Cancer. I'm not doing so well because I'm conjunct Uranus and I'm squaring Neptune. So the ruler of this house is under pressure, and this is why he struggled with his health. We could also look at his mental health side of things, because this is the health axis. This is more physical and this is more mental. His mental health ruler, because this is in Libra, is Venus. And we've spoken about Venus. She's debilitated in Virgo. She can't do very well in Virgo, and she's opposing the moon. She has got a sextile to Uranus, but again, it's that chaotic energy. Even though it's a sextile, Uranus is sudden changes. It's not the most helpful planet to a planet that's already debilitated. And she's ruling his mental health. So this is changes to his mental health. And Neptune in the 12th house is escapism, and it is really going into the depths and actually feeling like nobody really understands who you are. And then Neptune is squaring this as well, squaring Uranus as well. So Uranus has got a lot to speak for because it's sudden changes, it's chaotic energy, and it's impacting his health houses. And unfortunately, because he has actually got this T square going on here between his health houses and the ninth house, maybe his beliefs. If he, yeah, higher learning, but perhaps he just needed to really connect to people that understood him, and that probably would have helped him because when you have this T square, you have to go to the opposite house and you have to reach out to that in order to help you. So being part of his neighborhood and being part and connecting to his neighborhood would have helped him. I don't know if he did that, maybe he did, but in the end, unfortunately, his health got him, which is very sad. Now, also, when we think about his mental health illness, Mercury rules the mind. So already we can see that his health houses are slightly compromised. Then you want to look at what was actually wrong with him. He had, like I said, Lewy body dementia. And so Mercury rules the mind. We want to look at the condition of Mercury. Now, Mercury in Leo is very fast. And it's like I've already said, this is somebody that probably overthinks and has very quick thoughts. But the real issue here is that it's conjunct Pluto, because Mercury conjunct Pluto, even though this would have helped him transform and become famous with his spoken word, which it did, is also an energy that is it's psychological struggles, because it's deep, dark, paranoid thoughts, obsessive thoughts. This is like the epitome of self-undoing. Having your Mercury conjunct Pluto, it's self-undoing. Now, please don't, if you're watching this and you have this, don't think you're doomed. Obviously, you have to take the whole chart into consideration, and he has got issues with his health. And this was a sign of his brilliance. Like, he had powerful spoken word, but in the end, his mind was consumed by the tendencies of Pluto to be paranoid and obsessive, and unfortunately that led to his demise. But it was because of the other things going on as well: Moon in Pisces, escapism, health issues, the ruler of his house of health being not very well aspected. So this is why you have to look at everything. You can't just look at one aspect and think, oh, I've got that, I'm doomed. No, it's everything as a whole. Yeah, so unfortunately we can see how his health declined. His mental health, he struggled with his mental health, which we can see as well. Scorpio rising, all about transformation. He had managed to transform himself. He had gone through the 12 steps program. He was away from the drugs, he was away from the alcohol. So he had gone through this transformation. He had his wife who he met at the 12 steps program. So he was happy in that sense. But it was then his health that took over, and unfortunately that's what led to him passing away. He also, so like Venus in the 11th, so Venus is where, because she's the other benefic planet apart from Jupiter, so he had hope and abundance and blessings within his day-to-day work. He was incredibly famous, and he had Venus in the 11th house. He did a lot of charity work, and he gave a lot to charity. Venus is also money. He gave money to charity. He worked with I can't think of what the causes are, but I know that he did a lot of charity work and gave money away, and that is the 11th house. Saturn in the 11th as well, even though he may have felt isolated from groups at the time, that is also, Saturn is also pointing towards somewhere where actually you can mature and you can actually work through your Saturn placement. So I don't actually know whether he felt isolated, or when he was younger, whether he felt separated from groups. I'm not sure of that part of his history. But I do know that Saturn the 11th is also where we can step up to the mark and we can mature, and we can have longevity. So Saturn the 11th, again, it's also somewhere where you, again, that could have pointed towards his charity work, because Saturn is responsibility. So it was like he had a responsibility to help the collective, which he did. So that is a general overview of his Robin Williams chart. If there's something that you can spot that I haven't mentioned, please mention it in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. I would love to hear any different versions of that. I think it's so sad, but you know, he was so incredibly famous and he was so loved going back to this Venus moon on the North Node. But unfortunately, he had his struggles, and that can happen when you have a lot of, well, water, planets in the 12th house, um, some Scorpio, you know, everything has to come together. But it's really interesting to look at these celebrity charts and see how they play out. So that's all for today, guys. Please subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. If anyone has any requests of celebrities they'd like me to do, then please write it in the comments. I'm happy to take requests. Let me know if you have any questions. If you got some value, please give it a like. Really appreciate it. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.